Hey guys, I made the move. I made the move. Remember, I told you a year ago my wife wanted to know if her sister could move in with us. Her sister had taken care of her son for a number of years. He had diabetes. He ended up passing away. She was a caregiver for him. So when he passed away, she lost her income and her place to live. And I said, being a great husband, I said, well, of course, she can come stay for a couple of weeks. And you might remember I told you a couple of weeks turned into a year. Well, she finally got out on her own. I have an office. We have finished downstairs here. So I have a office, a living room, a bathroom. There's a laundry room, a storage room, a door that goes out into the side yard. So I moved from here. Now, the people we bought this house from years ago was a musician. So the room is actually soundproof. That's why I really like the room. I can do my videos and webinars and stuff from here. I don't hear the rest of the house and stuff. So I moved to the room above the garage, 3 floors up. I had to move everything up there. That's where I've been for the last 14 months. So she moved out. So I got everything moved down here, and I'm all settled in there now. Everything's not set up the way I like it. So I'm only commenting on this because you see the different, I know you see the different background and stuff. So I wanted to tell you that's what's going on. I'm not settled on where I'm going to be doing these videos going forward. Whether I'm going to do it here or other parts of the room, I'll be showing you that over a period of time. But I did want to talk to you about this very, very important principle. And that is that we talk from our frame of reference and we hear from our frame of reference. And here's what made me think of this. We have had, at our company, we have had phone service through Windstream for years, probably 12 years. I'm not going to say a lot about it. Haven't always had great experiences with them. But we got a new phone service because, sometimes companies just don't keep up with the technology and they're not able to offer you all the services that are available now with technology. And so we've been looking around for a period of time. And so we moved our phone service to a different company. And I've known these people for a long time, probably 10 years. And it's interesting when you do business with somebody in one way, in one role, and then you do business with them in a different role, how things kind of change. And I think that maybe sometimes in business relationships are infected by the original ongoing business relationship and how that pivots and can change to a new ongoing relationship. I think that happens sometimes. And so that's what happened in this case here. And as we set it up now, in my mind, this is just in my mind. In my mind, we're going to go through like a checklist of, here's what you've got. Here's what you're going to get. Here's the things we need to test. Here's the things we need to make sure gets transferred over from your existing company to our platform. Once it's transferred over, we need to test it. Once we test it, then as the customer, you're going to approve it. And then we'll say, that's the start date, right? Does that seem reasonable? I mean, type below and tell me if you think, does that seem like a reasonable way to go? So we kind of did that, or I did that. And the challenge is, that as we did this, sorry, I had a call come in. The challenge is as we did this, I kind of expected that process to follow. Now, the downside about that is maybe I didn't follow up as much as I should have or I could have. But I kind of expected that process to follow. So here's what happens. When you transfer a phone, you have some remote locations. So we use a voice over internet phone. So like I'm working from my home office today. It ties into the company office, which is about 40 miles from here. So when the phone rings at the office, it rings here at my office. I can answer people's extensions just like I'm sitting right there at the office. And I kind of thought that we were going to follow that process. So here's what we've got. Here's what you're getting. Here's what we need. Here's what we have. Let's test it out. So we did a test a couple of weeks ago. There were a few problems we had to kind of get corrected. And, when they send me an email, there's a vidder problem, we're doing a port. Like I'm pretty good with technology, but unless I go to Google and look this stuff up, I'm not like probably going to look up all that kind of stuff. So I'm just like, I need to make sure this and this happens. And I get a response. Now, the person I'm getting a response back is kind of like an intermediary. So there's a technical person, the guy that I've known for years that does this stuff. And then it's the person in the office that does kind of the communication. And the communication has been kind of like haphazard. So the communication I got back on the 8th was, here's what happened. I said, no, that's not correct. These numbers are missing. This part isn't working right. The 800 number is not going to the right place. Then I didn't really hear a lot back about it. Then I got a notice there was a test being done. And then on the 14th, hey, we've tested those things. It doesn't look like we've had any other problem. And I'm like, okay, great. Glad to hear that. Now, the next thing I'm expecting is, okay, here's the date we're going to do the switchover. So, I'm busy doing work. A couple other things come up. I'm kind of working along. And I get a notice that everything's finished. I'm like, well, wait a minute. The date that you did the testing was the 14th. I just got a notice. Today's the 21st. I just got a notice yesterday that we're done. And what I find out is that the switchover actually happened back on the 14th. So we've still had the other company set up. We didn't have a chance to give the cancellation notice to the other company. And now, it's funny, you talk from your frame of reference and you hear from your frame of reference. And the frame of reference is things are just kind of moving along. So apparently in the person's mind and their mindset, the person that's doing the communicating with me, in that person's mindset, when that person sent the email that said that the roll was done, to them, that was the start date. I didn't know that. I thought that once you did that, we were going to schedule the start date. And then I even had a conversation with my friend that we've done business with for years that I need to give notice to them. I want to give like a week or 2 weeks notice. But in this person's mind, it's just done and that's it. So now I've got to kind of backtrack and clean all that up and notify the other company, make sure that the date gets shut off correctly so I'm not paying for 2 services. It's just funny that you think something's really clear. Like you think that in your emails and in your phone conversations, you're being really clear. And the other person hears something different. And they reply. Now, here's the other thing that's funny about it, is we all use terminology that's common and familiar to us, right? So they reply with terminology that's common and familiar to them, but it's not common and familiar to me. In other words, I knew the term, but my definition of that term was apparently different than their definition of that term. So I'm not necessarily saying they did anything wrong. I'm saying as a customer, I would like to have gotten an email that said, hey, the transfer's done. We've tested everything out. We're going to start on this date. Make sure you notify the other company and give them notice and terminate. I would like to have had that kind of communication so I could have had my staff just, boom, take care of it. But all of a sudden, I'm like a week behind now. And now I'm kind of stuck contacting that company, making sure that they notice that we quit using them back on this date and that we're not going to get charged forward. So it's just funny how we talk from our frame of reference and we hear from our frame of reference. Now, the reason I started off telling you the story about me moving down here is because I had to I had to move my internet connection and my cable and everything had to move down here. We have AT&T. So they were pretty smooth. I scheduled it online, picked the date that I wanted it to do. The service doesn't change in any way at all. There is a little difference. When I moved upstairs, I had to have, because I'm doing a VoIP phone, I had to have everything transferred upstairs so they ran a wire around the back of the house, 3 stories up, drilled a hole in, came into the office up there, put the cat cable up there. So all that had to get set up. So when the guy came out, an hour before they came out, he said, "Hey, I'm going to be out there at 1 o'clock." He texted when he was about 3 miles away. Great communication. He shows up. I said, "Let me show you. Let me explain to you what's going on." So I took him upstairs and I showed him where the equipment was. Then I brought him downstairs. I showed him exactly how I want it set up in my office. He was terrific, no problem. And as I walk around the house and I showed him how they got it, I'm thinking in my mind, okay, well, we'll disconnect it in the office here, just pull the wire out. There's enough wire to go all the way around. You can come through the basement. And he's looking up in the ceiling and he's like, "No, you've got the connection right up here. I can just go right here. It won't take me. I'll be out of here in 40 minutes." And he runs the wire down here. He puts it right by my desk because I don't want to have equipment across the room. I don't want to have a wire across the room. I've got it all underneath my desk, hooked up with cables. It's all fixed really neat. They did such a great, simple job of it. So he listened to understand. He took the time to walk around and not only see what I was talking about, but to experience me sitting here working. I told him my VoIP phone had to be hardwired into the router. Told him I do a lot of webinars. I need to make sure that the vidder's correct. It's all below 30. He did all that. He went around and made sure all my laptops were connected. The iPads are connected. The phones are connected. The printer's connected. He made sure all that was done. And he was here for less than an hour. Now, I got to tell you, for me, that's kind of impressive because I've never had a great experience with cable companies. I've always had a little bit of problem with them kind of messing with it. Now, fast forward. Now, this was last Thursday. Spent the whole weekend getting the office all set up. Did my first webinar today at 1 o'clock. Had some meetings yesterday. Everything's going good. And I go to print something out, and it doesn't print. So it's a wireless printer. So I go upstairs and look at it and open a laptop upstairs and log in, put the IP address. Everything seems to be set up all right. So it's not connecting. The printer's not connecting to the router. I can't figure out what the problem is. I show it on my desktop here. It shows on the laptop. But on the laptop, it shows it's not connecting. So I call AT&T. Now, they've done a great job up to now. I get the girl on the phone at AT&T. She walks me through. The login is a little bit funny. They want to do a 4-digit code to verify who you are and do a password. We thought we had the 4-digit code set up. They didn't have it set up. We had to kind of redo that. It's a little frustrating, but she was very, very good and very courteous about it. Then I explained to her what I wanted. Here's what she did. It was so great. Remember, people talk from their frame of reference and people hear from their frame of reference. What she did was so great is she repeated back. It's called parroting. She parroted back to me the problem I described. She didn't repeat back to me what I said. She parroted back to me the problem I described. So, sir, what I hear you saying is that you're wanting to print something from your desktop and from a laptop to your wireless printer, and it's not connecting, so you're not able to print out what you're trying to print out. And I was like, girl, this should be a training call. That is exactly right. She didn't repeat what I said. She parroted the problem I described. And in no time, she had me give her the IP address of the printer. She logged in, put the password in, the passcode in there. And she said, I noticed there's a few problems with your router. Can I have your permission to fix this? And I'm like, can you have my permission? I'll send you a McDonald's kids meal card if you can fix this thing. So she shuts the router down, fires it back up, logs into the printer. Who does this? What cable company does this? What internet company does this? Logs into my printer, puts the passcode, connects it to the internet, to the Wi-Fi, then has me literally print off a page to make sure it's working before she gets off the call with me. Now, the other company, the first company, when we switched to phone companies, I've done business with them for 10 years. They do a great job. That's why I went with them. The tech guy, he's a friend of mine. He does a great job. But caught in the middle there is the office, who's looking at it from their point of view, not the customer's point of view. They're using terminology that's common and familiar to them. And they're communicating what's important and matters to them. They didn't communicate what's important and matters to me. When my friend was at the office and we set this up, we did the purchase agreement, he and I talked about we're going to pick a cutoff date. I want to give 2 weeks notice to the new company. I want to be able to have an end date to this. We talked about all that. But somehow that didn't get transferred to the person that handles the communication. Somehow the person who handles the communication didn't look at it from the customer's point of view. But look at what AT&T did. AT&T literally that girl literally put herself in my shoes. She sat at my desk. She parroted back to me the problem I was having. She told me what she was going to do to solve the problem. She described what she was doing as she solved the problem. She let me give her the IP address for the printer. Who does that? She logged in and corrected. And then, before she got off the phone, not wasting my time with all this nonsense about, well, you take a survey after, which, nobody likes to do, which I did, but nobody likes to do it. She had me actually print off a page to make sure it worked. So here's the lesson from this today. People talk from their frame of reference and people hear from their frame of reference. Remember, every conversation you have with your customers is about them, not about you. They're not interested in what you have. They're interested in what they get. They're not interested in what you do. They're interested in how they benefit. So just make sure that you're parroting back to your prospects the problems that they have so that you can tell them how you can help them solve the problem. And all salespeople know that Lloyd thinks you should never sell your product. You should always sell the problem your prospect has and then tell them the solution. So today's lesson is people talk from their frame of reference and people hear from their frame of reference. Just make sure that you're hearing what your customer meant and that they're understanding what you're intending. You hear what they meant and they're understanding what you're intending. Now I'm going to jump off a little bit early today because I'm going to go enjoy my internet and finish setting up my office. All right, guys, take care.